go ahead. Yeah, I can talk. I can't talk. Please go ahead.
DTM Ratinder, we can talk with you as well. We can hear you.
I welcome you all to the evening of evaluation excellence. Dignitaries, Mr. President, Toastmasters, and invited guests, a very good evening to one and all. To be the next generation leader you can be, you must enlist the help of others. Self-evaluation is helpful, but evaluation from someone else is essential. You need a leadership coach. Coaching enables a leader to go further faster. Muhammad Ali has quoted, "Champions aren't made in gyms. Champions are made from something they have deep inside them, a desire, a dream, a vision." Today, we have amongst us a champion evaluator. He was District 20 Evaluation Champion in 2012. He is a passionate fan of the fine art of evaluation. Enthusiast of the great skill of debating, he is a mentor and coach for many speakers and leaders in Toastmasters. He has conducted many workshops on evaluation, leadership, and other life skills. He is a member of Vision, Advanced, and Bahrain HR clubs. He is a mentor and coach of Haksem Al-Alawi and a District 20 International Speech Champion. Please welcome, with thunderous round of applause, DTM Ahmed Shukri. DTM Ahmed Shukri, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much indeed for a lovely introduction, and I'm very pleased and happy to be among you, Bahrain Distinguished Toastmasters Club, for an evening of evaluation excellence. And I promise you, I don't want to make this evening about me talking and you listening. I want this to be, if we have a dinner with us, we will call this a dinner theater. So we will have the enjoyment of food as well as the intellectual exchange of ideas and thoughts and opinions. So throughout this presentation, I'll stop, I'll ask questions, I will ask you to help me chime in with your ideas and opinions. This room has a number of elite speakers and champions, so your intellectual prowess will help me as well learn more and become even a better evaluator in the future. And before I start my first slide, let me ask you, ask your opinion on this statement. What can make or break a Toastmasters club is effective or lack of effective evaluation. Do you agree, and why? And why?
This is what members come for, feedback and improving themselves.
Excellent. Exactly. So one of the points of attraction in a club is having strong evaluators. Now, my next question, do you think that having an evaluation session is sometimes a thankless job? It doesn't get the glory of a prepared speaker. It doesn't get the limelight of, let's say, an ex-com member or the opening speech of the club leader, for example. Do you agree? And why do you think it's true or not true? DTM Khalid says it's not thankless. There are appreciation from the club members.
Well, DTM Ahmed, it is not thankless, because what you do is you feel satisfied because you have done the right job. And for the person who receives the feedback, he is satisfied that he has done something great and what are the area for improvement. And also we get a lot of applause from everyone. That's greatness of Toastmasters meetings.
Excellent. I love your answer, DTM Khalid. Now I would like to ask my sister DTM Muna. DTM Muna, if she hears me, because she also supports a lot of beginning speakers, especially in the Arabic clubs. And DTM Muna, how many times did you have to talk to someone not to leave a club because she or he received a bad evaluation? Especially early in the journey of evaluation. If she can't talk, I'll come
Hi.
back to you.
Yeah.
Yes,
Hi.
go ahead.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Hi. Salam. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Just sorry, but I have another call, but I hear your question and your
Yes.
regarding the evaluation, the feedback to the new members. Actually, we have a program between a link between the mentors and the VPE. The mentors, when we assign an evaluator for the new member, this evaluator should be know that this is a new member, and he have this sometimes he is frightened, sometimes he have weakness in a way the evaluator should know, and with the mentors they will fix something. And after that, after the speaker he finishes his speech and been evaluated, the mentor will go back to the speaker and he will give him another evaluation. And even the evaluator, he have something in written and he will send it through the mentor to the speaker. So this the way we are dealing with the new members, if you are asking for this point. So it is something like a plan between the mentor, the speaker, the evaluator, and the VPE. So that the new member will not be embarrassed, or he will leave the club or they leave Toastmaster from the beginning.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sister DTM Muna. I see DTM Farooq is raising his hand. If you can chime in and help us with this question.
Yes, I just, I don't know, but I think your question was a trick question. Because the way you asked that, it's not a glorious function to be an evaluator. You know, I don't think the purpose of evaluation is for you to be glorious, but to focus on the evaluator. Maybe in a contest, you can try to be glorious. But when you are coming to evaluation, it should be more recommending and more compassionate and more helpful to the speaker. It's not the focus to focus upon yourself.
Thank you very much for your answer. Really appreciate that. And you know, as per the Constitution of Toastmasters International, the way that we learn in Toastmasters clubs are made in such a fashion that it's not like a classroom environment. So there is no, I don't have any preference over you, even if I was more senior to you. If I'm going to evaluate you, then my role is to give you suggestions for you to take or not to take, to consider or not to consider in the end. So no one has that intellectual authority over your ability. That's why we learn together, and that's why we learn in a supportive environment. So you always have to ask yourself, whenever you reach to this level of self-doubt, that I'm feeling superior to my club members, I have to take some break and reevaluate my own position in the Toastmasters Club. Let me now harken back to where we are lucky and fortunate to have one of the pathway ambassadors here with us, DTM Roshan. And DTM Roshan, I never miss any of your presentations, by the way. I'm always watching the broadcast, and DTM Khalid Jalal, this year in particular, you are going on the right foot by broadcasting perhaps almost weekly a workshop or a talk on membership or PR or education. So DTM Roshan, if you can join me here, and I want to ask you a question. Do you believe that the Pathway program is making it easier for us to evaluate speeches?
Yes, absolutely right, DTM Shukri. I agree with you. And also I agree with fellow Toastmasters, especially what Toastmaster Ghulam Farooq shared and also DTM Khalid shared. And regarding pathways, yes, it has made more easier because you have a format. So there is it has standardized your evaluation because the Toastmaster principle works on evaluate to motivate. So sometime when we motivate, it may go out of track, but the basic principles are set in your evaluation form. So you are within the boundary, what best values you can add on speakers improvement. That's why if you see the first path, level 1, it talks to you about icebreaker, and immediate second speech, if you see second project, is gives three important roles. One is you'll be giving 2 speeches. One, it teaches you how to take feedback from evaluator. Then it also, second speech helps you to how to develop this feedback in your next speech. So you are bringing Toastmaster culture. And third point is, after that you have to do immediate evaluator role. So it will, your evaluator role will be evaluated by an evaluator. So it will help you to understand, imbibe Toastmaster culture of evaluation. So with all these points, I surely confirm and confidently say that pathways have become more structured evaluation, so it helps us to evaluate in the right way. Back to you.
Absolutely, DTM Roshan, thank you very much. To be honest with you, I wasn't one of the early adapters of pathways. In fact, for most of 2017, the year that District 20 had the duality of the old program and the new program, the rollout of pathways, I had a lot of heart-to-heart talks with the DTM Salim, who was at that time the CGD. And we had some heated discussions on how would pathways promote new membership. Given the fact that, you know, people like myself, a little bit older in Toastmasters, we come from the school of basic manual, the CC manual that has 10 speeches, and I still memorize the objectives of the 10 speeches by heart. So if I want to promote a person to come to Toastmasters, I would tell him, you will first join the club as a guest, then you'll be offered membership, then you will wait for your manual to be shipped from the US. While you're waiting for your book to come from the US, you can print the first icebreaker without copyright violation, do the icebreaker, and go forth with this progress. But then later on, the smoothness of the seamlessness of pathways really caught my attention, especially when it comes to evaluation. I'll come back to it again at the end of my presentation, but just remember that I do agree 100% with DTM Roshan that the new approach in Toastmasters of pathways is really helpful for evaluation. Not only delivering evaluation, but also preparing for your prepared speech. The VPE, once the VPE, for example, determines that member A will do level 1 project from visionary communication pathway, you don't have to ask even the member to go and share his evaluation form with his evaluator. All the evaluation forms are available on Basecamp. Everything is available on Basecamp. It's only the click of a mouse. Such a wealth of information is available in Basecamp. I'm sure that once more people like myself get to know how easy Basecamp is, they will embrace it, and you'll get more pathway projects coming in your clubs. So my next point, and I'll start in my slides, is I have chosen this title for my presentation. And of course, most of you heard about the sandwich. This is the first lesson I got myself from my mentor, that you need to evaluate a speech like a sandwich. And I do believe that this sandwich model is a good model. It's not a bad model. And it could be a nice starting ground for anyone who would like to go into the field of evaluation. Tonight, I would like to take you a step higher, and I want to challenge you how to step up our level, because you are a member of the Bahrain Distinguished Toastmasters Club. So the spotlight is on you to provide more than just average evaluations. The highlight of your name, your membership in this club, is to provide at least above average evaluation. So by default, my presentation is different than the one I give to basic starting clubs. It has to be a little bit higher in terms of advancement. Before I start, let me just tell you something else. Now, this is an inspiration for me and anyone who likes movies, and especially Hollywood movies. Do you know the name of this actor?
Christian Bale.
This is Mr. Christian Bale, one of the more chameleon type of actors in Hollywood. In each of his different roles, not only he looks different, but he lives the character. So in Psycho, he's the crazy psychopath. In Equilibrium, he is the wild scientist. In The Prestige, he's the illusionist. In the 3 to 10 to Yoma, he's the cowboy who is killing his rival. And of course, the great masterpiece, The Dark Knight trilogy, he was, of course, Batman, The Fighter. American Hustle, he gained at least 25 kg. The Big Short, I love this movie about the 2008 financial crisis. In Vice, he is the VP of the US, Dick Cheney, and Ford versus Ferrari, a chameleon. And he is a big fan of the method acting school of thought. So method acting is where the actor not only lives the character, he will request anyone in the set to start calling him by the name of this character. If you remember, there is a late actor by the name of Heath Ledger, who was the Joker in The Dark Knight. And Heath Ledger lost his life because of how he was encaptured by the character of the Joker. So he went into depression and he went into a very strange mental state, and he overdosed on a medication and he lost his life. The last person, if you remember, even before COVID-19, was Joaquin Phoenix, who did the Joker again, and he really embedded himself in the character. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this for a reason. That's rule number one when it comes to evaluation. Rule number one when it comes to evaluation. Leave aside your seniority, your experience, your exposure, your love, your passion for public speaking. There is one thing that is the building block for a very impactful evaluation. This can also be found in the Christian Bale principle. He says, I only sound intelligent when there is a good script writer around. There is a very close link between this quotation by Christian Bale and an effective evaluation. We're not only speaking, we're not only evaluating, we're writing a script. We are presenting the script and we are evaluating a speech. So 3 in 1. Can you imagine having the burden of 3 roles in one? And not only that, but you need to deliver this script in 3 minutes. It's an impossible task. It's a very difficult, hard task to achieve. So the secret I always tell people to always focus on is you need to sound intelligent, because people will have this different perception when you sound intelligent, when you sound confident, and when you sound on top of your game. Now, do you agree with me that you need to sound intelligent, confident, and on top of your game? when it comes to evaluation, of course. Yes, because no one would like to listen to a person who is evaluating feeling less confident or hesitant or not sure about the material or all over the place. So the first rule, the number one rule is to sound intelligent when you're delivering your evaluation. And tonight, at the end of this evaluation before the Q&A, I have a little surprise, and I took the permission from the owner of this video to show it and to demonstrate how you need to look intelligent when you're delivering a winning evaluation. So all of us, of course, heard about this at the start of our journey in Toastmasters. And I think all of you, or most of you, will agree with me when I say this, that the classic sandwich of evaluation is three layers. Tell the speaker what went well in the speech, then talk about what needs improvement, and then close with more of what went well. Sugarcoat your evaluation. Put the critique in the middle of two layers of positive remarks. We all been through this sandwich. In fact, pathway evaluation form is also a derivative of this classic sandwich. So if you go to any evaluation form under Basecamp, you'll see the form consisting of three main parts. The purpose of that level speech, which has the specific goals of the level speech. The next part are three questions. The three question is, what went well? How can you improve it? And how can the speaker challenge himself to do? The second page is just a numerical 1 to 5 ranking for voice clarity, nonverbals, audience interaction, and things like that. So pathways are reinforcing the importance of this simple approach to evaluation, the sandwich technique. And I agree with that. It's very simple, straightforward. It's motivating, and it will encourage people to listen to you as an evaluator. In the same time, tonight I'm proposing to all of you a new idea, a new way of thinking. Okay, now I'd like your help here with me. In front of you, I have put pictures of two gentlemen here. The one looking serious with a helmet on his head is a miner. So people who work in mine and they look for precious metals and coal. Back in the day in England, there were great miners. Of course, all miners were destroyed by Margaret Thatcher in the 80s, but they played a big role as a profession. On the other hand, you will have a typical newscaster from the 1950s in America. If you're a fan of the TV shows Mad Men, you will get familiar with this thick eyeglasses, gelled hair, white t-shirt, and dark tie. Now, a miner and a newscaster. What is this link to do with Toastmaster evaluation? Now, open your mind and go left-hand side. Think outside the box. Why did I put the profession of a miner and a newscaster as proposed way of thinking in evaluation? Let's start with miner. Is there a link between speech evaluation and mining for gold or for silver or for coal? Yes, DTM Farhaz is talking about to dig deep. And I agree, the deeper you dig, the better. You unearth new levels of excellence into the speech. How about newscaster? Any thought?
The newscaster is basically what you have dug deep and how you professionally present it to the world.
I like it. I like it. I like it. That's one. No, but not the answer I'm looking for. Do you agree with me that there's a disease that we have in speech evaluation, what we call the deja vu effect? So we heard the speech being presented, and the evaluator is repeating the whole speech. Did you come across this?
Yeah, many times.
Many times. So the evaluator is repeating the whole speech. What I'm proposing here to be a newscaster is not to repeat the whole speech, but to give us highlight, just in the news highlight. If you, back in the day before social media, we used to watch news updates, and we see how newscasters give us the summary of the headline of the news in a very short amount of time. So keep this in mind, mining and newscasting. Next, so this is my modified sandwich, the same format, but I'm proposing 3 new ideas for you as distinguished members of Bahrain Distinguished Toastmasters to elevate your levels of evaluation. In the first layer, I would like you to become newscasters, good newscasters. In the second layer, I would like you to be committed miners who are not just looking for gold in the first layer of earth, but are willing to dig deeper into the next layer and find more analysis and more depth in the evaluation. Third layer is more of an emotional layer, and that's closing with impact. And to tell you a small story, between the years 2007 and 2012, so 2007 was, until 2007, District 79, before District 20, took the evaluation contest up to division. So between 2004 and 2005, if you compete in the evaluation category, you'll only stop at division level. So from 2008, 2009, 10, 11, 12, this is where we took our divisions in Bahrain into District 79. In 2012, where the district was in Bahrain, the previous district conference was in 2008. So we had 2008 and 2012. I heard the person telling a speech evaluator why he thinks that he will not win the first place. And he talked about summation, that the person did not summarize. I went back and looked at the ballot of the evaluation, and indeed, there are 15 points for summary. So if you don't summarize your evaluation, you're automatically losing 15 points. So sometimes the devil is in the details, and missing those small things can really make you lose points that are quite important in your evaluation. So again, be a good newscaster, then move into becoming a committed miner, and always close with impact. Let me dig deeper. There is one important ground rule, and that ground rule is applicable to any evaluation, whether it was an icebreaker, whether it was a pathway project at any level, or whether it was a district level evaluation contest. All we do is we evaluate 2 entities and 2 different entities in front of us. We evaluate a speech and we evaluate the speaker. So clever evaluators know that a speech is not the speaker. A speech is an independent organism that can be treated separately from the speaker. And when you evaluate the speech or the content, you're actually evaluating history. because the speech is already written, prepared, rehearsed, and organized. So the speech is in the past, it's history. The speaker is the future. It's a very important distinction. It took me a while to reach this conclusion. So when you're evaluating the content only, as if you're evaluating something in the past, maybe this will not be repeated. Maybe this content will be only once and will not be repeated by the speaker. It could be a once-off speech. However, the speaker, you are giving the person something to improve upon for the future. So when you say that DTM Roshan he needs to work on his vocal variety, he will use this for the future. But when you say DTM Roshan's last week's speech on mentor program and pathways was a little bit long, it's done and done. He probably will not repeat this speech again anytime soon. So remember to distinguish between what you're evaluating for history and what you're evaluating for the future. And this is where most of fresh evaluators go into the mistake. So where do you think should we become more critical? Should we critique the content more, or should we critique the speaker more? And which one is safer? So if I am a more critical evaluator, where do I should focus my critical evaluation? On the content or on the speaker? I see a lot of in the chat room talking about content, speaker, content, but the safest.
Both.
Both, yes. If you find a magical formula of balancing both of them, then by all due means, do it. Do it. I do agree with you. But especially for those by the book evaluators. Now, let me give you examples. DTM Khalid is by the book speaker. He likes to follow the rule book. He likes to go by the rules and evaluation points. So I would coach him to focus more on content, because if you focused your critical evaluation on the speaker, you might unintentionally offend him or her. This is a lesson I have learned, sadly, the hard way. Way back in 2004, when we had the Toastmasters Club at my company, Aluminium Bahrain, Alba. Fresh set of members. They're just learning the basics of the CC manual. And I had a person who was attempting speech number 6. And back in the day, speech number 6 is all about vocal variety. So you need to use voice volume, fluctuation, rate, and pitch to vary your vocal variety. There on that day, most of my critical evaluation was aimed at the person. And I still remember that night I told him, Mr. XYZ, you have a very ineffective voice that should not be allowed to give long speeches because you will put people to sleep. That was the end of his membership in Toastmasters. He did not come back. Until today, we are good friends. We are good friends. But he did not come back from that critique. So be careful when you want to direct your critical evaluation. Remember that when you talk to speakers, you're talking to the future. You're going into the personal space when you're evaluating them. So content is a much safer place. Organization, impact, message, story, do your best there. There's always a disconnect between a speech and a speaker. When you venture into the speaker, remember that you're going into very delicate, thin ice when it comes to evaluation. Be careful about that point. Okay, so let me start with my content. So let's focus on content. Then we'll go to speaker. Under content, let's use the same rule of 3. So the sandwich has 3 layers. Content has also 3 layers. So the same way we teach new Toastmasters that you create intro, body, and conclusion or end, the same thing we structure our typical evaluation. We always start with a framework. Then we go into the core of the content, and we evaluate what's in it for me. So what is the lesson, take-home lesson behind the speech? This rule book is something I always depend on when I want to evaluate an icebreaker, advanced speech, or even a contest evaluation. In my mind, I always put a framework. I focus on the core of the content, and I end by highlighting what was the main weapon of the speech, what's in it for me. So if I go into the framework, and I would like you to make a small survey among all of us here, and let's see the preference, your preferred style of framework. Okay, so when I say framework is the structure I use in my evaluation, is the motif, is the theme that I use in my evaluation. And I'll start my first question with DTM Hisham. I want to ask him this question first. So before I ask you the question, let me tell you that there are 3 main frameworks or themes or styles or structures of evaluation. The first one is called thematic. And unfortunately, sometimes thematic evaluations are taken out of context. I'll give you an example. So a thematic evaluation is the overall analogy that you are using for the evaluation. I am 100% sure you came across an evaluator who said something like this. The speaker tonight was like a nice dinner party. The introduction was like the appetizer. The body of the speech was like the main dish. And the conclusion was the night dessert. Yes, you're smiling, DTM Roshan. I know that you came across this.
Yes, absolutely. I've come many times, these thematic evaluations.
Sometimes they become so creative and they say tonight's speech was like a lovely cricket match. I've heard this, by the way, comparing the speaker to Sachin Tendulkar. I'm sure you came across this. DTM, anyone in this room, you came across such a thematic evaluation. The pitfall with this is that there's a big chance that you are presenting a new speech and you're wasting valuable time when you're creating the basis for your thematic evaluation. Many times in my experience, I've heard speeches, evaluators that start with, I remember when I was young, I was a child, my mother used to tell me that to succeed in life, you need to trust yourself and have faith in yourself. It's nice, don't get me wrong, but it's not evaluation. It is time wasting. It's not evaluation. I'm not saying it's not effective. Thematic evaluations are nice. They are different. They are out of the box, but don't make them your main center of focus. Don't make your emphasis on cooking or singing or painting or playing cricket be predominant than your main purpose, which is evaluation. You're not here to tell us why cricket is the greatest match in the world and try to find a way that cricket matches speaking, because you're wasting valuable seconds in your evaluation. The next framework is procedure. I am 100% sure you've been across this before. 3S or 3C or 4P or 5D procedure. The first D stands for determination. The second D stands for dialect. It's nice. It's also nice. But the problem with procedural evaluations is they will sound fake. It might sound pre-prepared. Like if you have a person who comes to the stage and he has 3 S's: subject, structure, style. You can see in his eye or her eye that they're trying to retrofit their evaluation on the procedure they are proposing. Even if the speech has no style, they would like to find a way to retrofit, like to reverse engineer the speech to fit their procedure. Again, I'm not saying it's wrong. It is a framework that you can use, but be careful not to sound prepared and robotic and not linked to the actual speech. The third one, which I really, really appreciate, respect, and love, is the linguistic mastery of evaluation. Your command of the English language is your command on how good your evaluation is. Even this linguistic framework can also have a caveat and can be over the board. There are people who fill their evaluation with jargons, terminologies, and nomenclature that no one understands. They will sound intelligent, but the speaker will not benefit in the end. As if you are giving a lecture on quantum physics to a fourth grader. You sound intelligent, but no one will benefit. In fact, you have to be careful when you are having a good command of English, not to look down on your speaker. And this is from real life experience, by the way. 2009, BTEC in Bahrain, there was a evaluation speech finalist. So the person is winning a club area and reaching to the level of division. So in the person's evaluation, the recommendation was like this. The whole evaluation was linguistic, a lot of jargon, a lot of metaphors, a lot of linking words. The point of suggestion was, I did not like your pronunciation or enunciation of English. I recommend you to go and listen to BBC TV and radio shows to get your ears accustomed to how English is pronounced in the RP accent or any other dialect. Do you see how condescending this evaluation is? Maybe the person was feeling the superiority of his or her English abilities, but we don't want to burn down bridges. We want to build bridges with our speakers. We want to connect with them and not feel far away from them. So I listed down these 3 frameworks, and you can look at them and choose which one is your preferred style of framework. And this is my question for DTM Hisham. Where do you see yourself, DTM Hisham, in this 3 frameworks of evaluation?
Thank you for that great question, DTM Mohammed Shukri. I'd like to split my answer into 2. If it's a project evaluation, I tend to stick to procedural, because that way I can focus on the project objectives and give a lot more meat of content. If it's a contest evaluation, it depends on one very important factor, my speaking order. Because if I am speaker number 1, what I do would tend to be more procedural. But if I'm speaker number 5, 6, or 7, then I can pick an order out of the 3, and it would be procedural, followed very, very closely by linguistic. And if I have extra time, I will add a theme to it. So when I say procedural, the procedure I follow is the first 6 features in the CC manual. That's what I tend to stick with, procedural, and generally I can pick something from the speech. Then, as you say, I try to use positive language. Instead of saying don't do, I try to say try to do. So if I have time in the isolation room, I can fix this. And then time permitting, if God's blessing is there, a theme will come through, which I can apply. I hope this answers the question. Back to you.
Lovely, lovely. Let me hear from DTM Khurram. He's also a person who likes to put a framework in his evaluation.
That is very correct. But as of recent, I see myself tending more towards the linguistic side of things. And depending on the speech and how I'm feeling inspired that day. But if I was to pick one among the three, I would bend more towards the linguistic side. But I have dabbled in procedural and thematic in the past as well. But it's more linguistic for me now.
Lovely. I do agree with you, DTM Khurram. You are among the speakers who love to enunciate and pronounce the words quite correctly and give each letter its right in terms of syllabuses and how you enunciate each letter. That's why it puts you into the linguistic style. DTM Khalid Jalal, where do you see yourself?
To be honest, nowhere.
No.
I'm being very honest because I have a issue with the vocabulary and the language and procedure. It all depend on the how do I analyze the speech delivered by someone. Usually what I do, I write down my own notes as the speech is being delivered. So when I look at the note, the whole speech is in front of me. Then I visualize what has happened, and of course I write few notes what I think one not supposed to be there and they're not there.
Lovely.
Absolutely. I will say absolutely. Maybe somewhere else, not in this framework.
Maybe you're a combination of the three framework. I want to hear also from Nagendra as well. DTM Nagendra, I want to see his preferred style of framework.
Good evening, Ahmed. Shukri.
Good evening.
In my opinion, I generally go with linguistic, and some part of procedural is thematic. Unfortunately, I am not of that where I can connect to a theme and start giving things. No, I'm not in that frame of mind. So yes, of course, I'll be more of linguistic and procedural.
Lovely, lovely. Let's hear from Toastmaster Sushmita, because she also tried and she has a good command of the linguistic part of evaluation. Let's hear from her.
Hello, good evening, DTM Ahmed. Well, to be precise, I'll prefer to go with procedural. And sometimes, because of lack of time, being professional, person out there, sometimes you don't get enough time even to prepare for the contest and stuff like that. So what I usually take up is, it's a secret coming out of the bag now. I just make some acronyms and like, STAR or something, just, decide upon beforehand, plan it that way. And when I hear out the speech, maybe I try to fit in. Maybe it's wrong, maybe it's right to an extent, and make it linguistic. So I just bring everything together. But thematic is something which I avoid usually. That's one thing which I'm away from. But this I work on. And I remember once it was in my own club meeting. It was a contest there, club contest. And DTM Ahmed Shukri happened to be there just as a visitor. After the meeting was over, he just, said, "You're good in evaluation." He said those words you won't believe. That was my day. That was my day. And I started working on that thereafter. So that's it. From my side is procedural and linguistic, a balance of both.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And thank you for the lovely comment. The reason why I have listed down these three framework is because I've been through them one by one for the past 20 years or 18 years of Toastmaster experience. I began in 2007, all I did was thematic evaluations. If you go back on YouTube and you see my 2010 division BTAC evaluation title, it was pure thematic. I actually said speaking is like painting. And just
yes, I heard that speech. I was going to tell you, Ahmed, because you won that. on that thematic evaluation. And I was there in that meeting, and the brushes of the strokes which you made,
right.
I was there, and I was going to tell you, but you won this evaluation contest with thematic.
So then after 2010, of course, in 2010, we went to Kuwait. I was a DTAC in Kuwait. And there, again, I repeated a thematic evaluation. I got second place that year. 2012, when we went back to Bahrain, if you've been in that DTAC, if you witnessed the evaluation contest, I did a typical procedural evaluation. I said a speech has 6 S's, 6 S's. And the last S was Shukran, stands for Shukri, Shukran. So thank you for your speech. Then, of course, when you become wiser and older, you say, let's stick with linguistic because you want to sound intelligent. Now, I struggle not to go back to my thematic and procedural evaluations. I go to a linguistic style of evaluation. Syntax and semantics, exactly. Right, now the next slide after this is the core. All we do in Toastmasters is teach a principle that the great Bill Gove talked about. And Bill Gove is one of the fathers of modern communication. The 1990 world champion of public speaking, who was also in Bahrain. He was a guest of Manama Toastmasters back in 2004. He came to Bahrain in the Jubilee of Manama Toastmasters, and we heard him on the stage talking about Bill Gove's principle, which is all we do in Toastmasters is tell a story, make a point, or make a point and tell a story. Because if people forget the principle, they will remember the story. And if they remember the story, they will remember the principle. So there is no winning speech, whether icebreaker, advanced, pathway, or international speech, without the core, which is a good story. So prepare yourself mentally as an evaluator to look for the core of the speech, which is a story. My recommendation for you to look for a story is to focus on specifics. And we are lucky to have tonight the actual video from DTM Hisham's 2020 winning evaluation. And you'll see what I mean when I say dive into specifics. You don't have to do a general checklist of all the points in your evaluation. The more specific you are, the more intelligent you sound, the more focused you sound. So when I evaluate the core of a speech, and there is a story in that core of the speech, I think of 2 frameworks or 2 ideas. The first one is the 5 W's of a speech. So any story in the world should have when and where, which is, even in classic fairy tales, we say, we talk about sometimes some day in history, long ago in far away land. So we build the ground, the context of the story. Then, of course, who is the 3rd W, which is, of course, personal stories. So personal stories are the main anchor of a winning story. Then the 4th W is what? So the plot. So what happened from point A to point B. And of course, the moral of the story, which is why. So even in this framework of the 5 W's, you can focus your evaluation. You can spend at least a minute evaluating the core of the speech, which is the story. And even within the plot, the 4th W, you can even drill further and talk about, did the speaker reach an actual climax in the story? Did he release the tension? Did he share the lesson? So you see, even within the plot of the story, you can talk about the arc of drama. Did he build a twist? Did he reach a climax, release the tension, and share the story? This type of specifics you need to include in your evaluation. You just can't say that we've heard a good personal story. This is too general. You need to dive even more into the mechanics and the basis of what makes a good core of a story or a message. If you're evaluating pathway speeches, then beforehand, go through all the evaluation material which are available in Basecamp and base your core part of your evaluation on the actual instruction given in that evaluation form. Toastmasters International have done a wonderful job in providing each level of each pathway with enough evaluation source material. Next after that is the WFM. And in the WFM, it's what's in it for me. Remember, guys, Toastmasters, it's not about you. This whole field of public speaking is not about you. It's never about you. So the more you say, I did this, and I did that, and I achieved this, and I went there, and I was over the moon, I was the best speaker in the world, you are destining the audience away from you. In the world of theater, they talk about the fourth invisible wall. So in theater, you have a wall on the right, a right wing, left wing, and the backdrop. That's wall number 1, wall number 2, wall number 3. The fourth wall is the one between you and the audience, the invisible wall. So let's say DTM Ratender came today and he said, I am God gift to humanity. Everything I say is gold. And if you don't listen to me, you're lost forever. How do you feel about him? God gift to humanity. I have done, even when district speakers, when district champions, they come to us, and I have a real life story with DTM Hisham, because his speech this year, I had the pleasure of working on a certain level of his speech. And I told him a statement that I think he took it to heart and he worked on it. I said, people don't like superhero speeches. People don't like it when you tell them that I've been through misery and I become so successful. Look at me, I am the superhero. It might be true. There might be people who were too strong for their circumstances and they became successful despite all the adverse circumstances. But you don't need to be a superhero in your story, especially where the whole world is suffering from sadness and misery for the past 2 years. That's why superhero stories may not be as humble as other type of stories. That is why winning speeches is all about the speaker learning something from a mentor or a guru or a sensei. Let me use your story again, DTM Hisham, as an example. Sorry for going back to you because you are the fresh in my mind. Your speech, if I'm sure all of you heard DTM Hisham's speech in DTAC 21. Who was the hero of your speech, DTM Hisham?
In this, sorry?
Yes, who was the hero of your story?
In this particular speech, it would have been me, because I learned from the lady who taught me.
And I wouldn't say that you were the hero of the story. You were the main character of the story. The hero of your story was the spice lady that taught you how to adapt and become flexible. And remember, that was an important change in your speech, because the moment you shifted focus on a person who taught you a lesson, you became more human. You became one of us. You're learning and we are learning with you. And you're teaching us by example. Why I'm saying this, why I'm saying don't be the superhero, be the hero of your speech, but don't be the superhero of your speech. Be always the learner of your speech. Let someone teach you a lesson in your speech. Give us a process that we can learn. Why do I say this? Because in your evaluation, you need to highlight what's in it for me. So Darren LaCroix, the 2001 world champion, who also spoke in DTAC 21, he gave a very nice workshop in DTAC 21. He has this principle that the perfect with him is, you need to tell us what we need to do, feel, or think 3 days after the end of your speech. So great speeches don't end when the speaker ends the speech. Great speeches start when the speaker ends the speech. And the simpler your icon is, the easier it is for us to understand it and to relate to it. For this example, if I tell you who was the world champion of 2014 and what was his speech? This is a small trivia for all of you. And he was in Bahrain in 2010. He came to Bahrain. Sorry, in 2016.
I see something.
Yeah, exactly. A fellow Sri Lankan got it correctly. Of course, all of us, we know Dhananjaya. He was in Bahrain in 2015, 1 year after winning the world championship. I see something in you. See how simple the concept is? You know, it's so down to earth and it touches you. How about the 2015 world champion? Who was the world champion in 2015?
MQ and the cigarette man.
Power of words.
The power of words.
Power of words. And I'll give you a small secret. Toastmasters International is just like Hollywood. And the Oscars, the winning film is, if you want to win an Oscar, you need to admire filmmaking. So if you produce a film about filmmaking, there's a big chance you win an Oscar. If you produce a speech about public speaking, there's a big chance you also can secure a world championship. So remember this concept. What with him of Darren LaCroix 3 days later. So when you're evaluating and you want to dive into specifics, you can tell your target speaker, did you teach me something I can do after 3 days when you finish your speech? Was this with him specific, simple, easy, realistic, time-bound? This is what I do when I try to dive into the content. So let me summarize. In the content, I determine my theme, my framework. I tackle the core of the speech, and usually the core is the story, because the story is the anchor of the speech. And I include the conclusion of the speech, which is the wisdom of the speech. This will conclude my content. So what about the speaker? What about the person presenting the speech in front of us? And why do you think I put the lovely picture or the famous picture of Albert Einstein here in this particular slide? And one of his most famous equations, energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. There's a reason behind that. Because speaking is all about energy. Speaking is all about energy. There is no world champion that did not practice the speech again and again and again. There is no inspirational speaker who comes to the stage with low energy. So speaking is all about how you project yourself on the stage. And this is one of the most famous rules when it comes to distribution of the communication process. It's the 55-38-7% rule. This rule is also found in Toastmasters manuals. So quite an accepted universal rule that 55% is your body language, 38% is your vocal, your tone, and only 7% is the spoken word. Now, I want to ask you, heart-to-heart question here. This is an honest forum for us to discuss as Toastmasters and as speakers. It's actually an acquisition that we are often accused of as Toastmasters. And we are sometimes over dramatic in our delivery of speeches. We are over dramatic to the level of acting more than speaking. Do you agree with this statement? And have you been through a discussion about this statement? Let me ask Farhaz.
Yes, I kind of agree to a certain extent. And I have been through a number of discussions on this very topic about where is the line that we have to draw between drama and speech. So yeah, been there, done that. Where do
Have
we
you
draw
been
that line?
accused, DTM Farhaz, have you been accused of being unrealistic in your approach of presentation? You're over dramatizing your speeches?
I try not to as much as possible in my speeches. Yes, I use props where necessary. I use gestures. I'm naturally a speaker who has natural gestures, but I don't overdo it. I try to draw a line between jumping up and down unnecessarily and jumping up and down if necessary, if you get the drift. I haven't directly been told that I over dramatize unless people are speaking behind my back, which I wouldn't know.
I'll circle around for DTM Hisham and I tell him, you're in real life, Hisham, an instructor, an educator, an adult learning instructor. So by default, your real life persona is more of a reserved, structural, informational speaker. And if people saw your second place winning speech, did they accuse you of over dramatization?
Thank you for that, DJ Mohammed. I'd like to answer the question in two layers. Who I am in personal life and my persona in the classroom is different, because invariably in the modern classroom, there has to be a little bit of showmanship. There has to be an increasing element of engagement, especially it is true in the virtual environment where the audience has the option to mute you or simply turn your video off. So yes, in the classroom, there is more engagement and a little bit more showmanship compared to what it was 18 years ago when I started teaching. Now, would I do my district speech delivery in the classroom? The answer is no. The answer is no. Now, over the last 7 years of contesting, I have been told once that a speech was too dramatic, and that was at a club level contest where I came second. And from that point onwards, I have had this dilemma of how to balance my natural speaking style, which is a little bit more reserved and soft-spoken, while including a certain amount of drama and energy. And the one thing that I want to do is to bring out a style that is uniquely me, because nobody can be better than the best version of me. So I've been said once in one particular speech that the dramatics were too much, and that was way back probably in 2016. And from that point onwards, I have tried to balance the message with the energy in a manner that is suitable for that speech, trying not to go beyond it. And my Damocles sword, if you will, or the Occam's razor that I use to make the cut is, will this add to the audience's understanding of the message? If yes, I keep it. If no, I remove it. I hope that answers the question.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And thank you for using Occam's razor. The most effective solution is the simplest solution to any dilemma. I also like the same analogy. Number one, let me answer this in two different layers. The first layer, I support 100% our use of drama in delivering speeches in a context of Toastmasters. Because in the end, public speaking is a visual art. And if you don't apply visual art, we will be as good as any non-Toastmaster. This is my first caveat. My second caveat, and this is more relevant to our CGD, DTM Khalid Jalal, is we should not always show our dramatic face, especially in formal settings. If we want to penetrate corporate clubs, if we want to create an impression about how serious we are as speakers in a speechcraft, in a corporate environment, I talk from experience. From 2003 until 2011 in Alba, that was a main area of critique that I have faced as twice the leader of this club, and again, part of the ExCom, is if we see you over dramatizing speeches, then this is not public speaking, it's acting. Especially when you have members in the company that are by nature not outspoken in their real jobs. So why I'm saying this is because we had a speech champion who was very quiet in his day job. He was to himself, introvert, not giving a lot of speeches, but when he's on the stage, he unleashes an amazing level of energy. So they always come back and say, how could this person win speeches? He's always quiet. He's not speaking in his professional life. And I always tell them, remember that for every situation, there is a unique speech style that you should apply. So yes, I support all Toastmasters in dramatizing and even over dramatizing, as long as the context is clear, so we can create the most impactful impact. Here, I have to apologize on this slide that I did not include more deep dive on voice and tonality, as well as body language, because those two, they have a separate presentation focusing only on tonality and body language. So this presentation for tonight will not dive into these two elements of evaluation, but I'm putting this here because you will see it prevailing in your evaluation. You cannot escape it. You have to evaluate body language and tonality because they are almost 93% of the speaker's performance. You just can't escape it and just turn a blind eye to the speaker. Yes, be less harsh when you evaluate the body language and tonality, but don't avoid putting this on the table. It will be in your face. You will have to look at it and evaluate it. Moving on. This is the point that I have learned the hard way when I was competing on district level, when I was ignoring summation. A lot of speakers, they end the evaluation by saying, back to you, Toastmaster, or back to you, contest chair. We need to always close with an impact. The best format I like to use when I want to close my evaluations is using first signpost. So what are signposts? Signposts are tools, connectors used in language. So it could be in an orderly fashion, first, second, third, last, or it could be a connector in terms of contentions or even verbs or even pronouns or even certain adverbs like finally or overall or in summary. In fact, you can also avoid the word but, because when you say but, the people or the person will forget what you said before the but, and they will focus on what you say after the but. So using out of adjectives is good in your signpost in your evaluation. My favorite adjective or connector when I want to close my evaluation, I say, in summary or overall, your speech made me feel this way. And I focus on made me feel this way. There's a reason why I'm focusing on this particular description. Do you know why I'm focusing on this particular description? I focused on, I liked how your speech made me feel inspired. DTM Roshan, what do you think I focused only on how the speech made me feel? Is there a secret behind that?
Yes, I feel you are putting an empathy score between you and the speaker, because you are putting yourself in speaker situation and you're giving that agreement with the speaker that, okay, what you said is normal and quite affirmative, and we also feel that. By doing that, you are giving an encouragement to a speaker that what I spoke is a lot of value. That's
absolutely. Absolutely, and that's my second heart in this form. You see, the first heart is how I feel. So when you express how you feel, you will project the same feeling to your speaker. So if the speaker has this confidence that he made me feel inspired, he will also feel inspired. The second reason for that is no one can tell you that you are wrong. DTM Roshan, I can't tell you that you are wrong for feeling inspired, because this is my feeling. It's in my heart. This is how I feel. Nobody can tell you that you're wrong for feeling inspired. There's no area for you going into, no, he was wrong.
You will be the owner of your personal feelings. Nobody can.
Yes, so please use this, especially in your conclusion. You see how easy it is when you say, overall, in summation, the speech made me feel inspired, and I hope that you continue inspiring others. This is for pathway speeches. For contest speeches, do not forget the word in summation. The judges will put an ear for in summation because they want to put down 15 points for you on the ballot for judges. So remember this important point by closing with impact. My penultimate slide, and after this I'll show you the video, is my list of don'ts. And these lists, I would like to get your input into it as well. The first do not is déjà vu, which is French for seen before. DTM attender, how many times you've been through a déjà vu evaluation? The evaluator repeats the whole speech as if we were not in the room. Many times, right?
Many times, including me. I also made the same mistake.
I have a very nice, learn the hard way. I have a very nice story for you to explain why evaluators do the déjà vu. Okay, now I would like to ask DTM Farhad to help me here. So DTM Farhad, when you are in an evaluation contest, what happens after you go into the isolation room?
That's the part when all the contestants start walking around like zombies as if they don't know each other.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. I have two stories for you inside the isolation room. One is from 2012 and one from 2017. And by the way, 2017 was the last year I took part in a DTAC level contest evaluation. So 2012 was the year that the contest was in Bahrain. So we were in the isolation room and people were saying, people were feeling nervous. They want to get their notes written and finished. And now they are in the isolation room. And I swear to God, the moment you are in the room, as you said, Farhad, people are all silent and they pace back and forth, back and forth. If you dare to speak, they will shush you. They will shush you. This is not made up. I swear to God, this is what happens inside isolation rooms. So in 2010, I was speaker number 3 on that contest. So I was watching speaker number 6 in front of me. So he is, I think he was from Oman, and he was preparing for his speech. And I was watching him acting out his hand movement. So he had this hand movement of overextending his arm. He was trying it, and his jacket was restraining his movement. So I was watching his actual rehearsal of his nonverbal. So what he did is he was wearing the jacket, and he took off the jacket to be part of his evaluation. So part of his evaluation is taking off the jacket as if he is shedding away a weight, an extra layer that the speaker should not focus on. And I told myself something will go wrong with the speaker. And something did go wrong with the speaker. So when you go back to your to the main presentation, the first thing you do is to allow the person who is in charge of the clip-on mic to put the mic on either your jacket or your tie or your shirt. But you don't usually have the awareness to tell him where to put the mic. So he will put it either on the jacket, on the tie. Unfortunately for the speaker, the person putting the clip-on mic had this same approach, putting the mic on the jacket for all the 6 speakers. So by default, the mic was on the jacket. And the evaluator went on stage, and everything was fine. We heard the evaluation until the jacket came off, as planned and rehearsed by the evaluator. And all we heard is the mic dropping on the floor of the stage. The evaluator kept on speaking without us listening to him, because the mic was on the jacket was on the floor. And when he finished his evaluation, he dragged back his jacket on the floor, and we could hear shh, 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 shh. The mic was touching the floor as with the dragging of the jacket. So my point is, the reason why we suffer from deja vu is because the moment we get that piece of paper, evaluation sheet, we switch into essay writing mode. Now, are you guilty of feeling the urge to fill that piece of paper with every single inch and word said by the speaker? I've seen pieces of paper, the evaluation sheet, filled with each and every word said by the speaker. Guess what? No points are given for essay writing. Nobody will see your evaluation sheet. This is yours. That piece of paper is yours. So the more you write in that piece of paper, the more you are exposed to deja vuing the evaluation. How to overcome this? There are many techniques. It depends on your own style. But dividing the paper into 2 parts or 4 parts will prevent you from essay writing. So remember, to avoid deja vu, avoid writing essays in your evaluation. Next, give new speeches. And this goes with the thematic framework of public speaking evaluation. You're not there to speak, you are there to evaluate. So don't give new speeches. Third, what we call misplaced ownership. Now, what does this mean? Misplaced ownership is when you objectify your speaker and you say, tonight, my speaker did this and my speaker did that. Is this nice? Do you own the speaker? Is he a part of your possessions? That's why my speaker is not the most appropriate term to use or pronoun to use. On the other hand, you can be totally objective by saying the speaker or the target speaker, which is on the far side of being objective. And there is one thing that was happening before COVID-19 time, and I swear to God, you agree with me on this if you attended physical contest. When the evaluator comes to the stage, he said, the speaker, where is he? Looking for the speaker on the stage, in the audience. It always happens, it always happens. And you waste 15 seconds looking for your target speaker in the audience. That's why I think in the late years before COVID, the organizers made sure that the speaker is sitting in the front so you can watch him or her. The best way, of course, between the two approaches, what is the sweetest word you can ever hear? Your own name. So using the name is a powerful way to connect with your audience. People like to hear their own name. So that's why I always make it a point to say the name of the speaker in every evaluation. I do personally. I advise you to do the same. Fourth, the general list. Please, please, please avoid giving the general list. If you want to talk about vocal variety, tell me the specifics of which part of vocal variety you're talking about. If you want to talk about body language, tell me in specific which part of the body language you want to focus on. Dig deeper and dive into examples. After that, don't forget the medicine. If you tell me what's wrong with my speech, it's always good to tell me how to fix it. So if you're going to a doctor and the doctor gives you a diagnosis, it's always be nice for the doctor to give you a medicine for it. And the reason why evaluators don't give the medicine is because of lack of time, because they are squeezed in their time. There's no time to give you how to improve. So that's why I always say limit your suggestion to 2 or maximum 3, because 2 or 3 will give you ample time to subscribe or prescribe the medicine or how to improve the point. Next, talking gibberish. Talking gibberish might sound clever and intelligent, but you're not serving your speaker. There's no win-win situation for the speaker. Next, wait for the amber light. Please, please, please do not wait for the amber light to start giving your suggestions. The suggestions have 40 points in the evaluation ballot. Without giving yourself ample time to give suggestions, you will squeeze yourself in the end. That's why always make sure to start into your suggestions while you are in the green light zone and not in the amber light zone. There are many speakers who wait for the amber light to start suggestions. If you start your suggestion in the amber light, it's too late for you. You will rush into your evaluation and you will end with sudden death, which is my last point. This was my list of don'ts. I would like to close with a small surprise, and I took the permission of the owner of this video before showing it to you. Once I play this, we will just have a quick recap on what techniques the evaluator used, and then we'll open the floor for questions and answers. Now, I'll stop sharing because I would like to move into the normal PowerPoint mode to show you the video. Of course, this is the speech of DTM Hisham Jifri, 2020 first place winner, DTAC.
Contestant number 5, Hisham Jifri. Contestant number 5, Hisham Jifri.
I am not a self-made person. Angels without wings gave me the wings to fly. This is the essence of the transformational story shared in 7 minutes and 14 seconds by Toastmaster Indu Nair. Madam Contest Master, fellow Toastmasters, good morning to you. In the analysis of this speech, we can identify the following beautiful features. Number one, the liberal but light sprinkling of humor right throughout the speech. My personal favorite is this one. I gave my first resignation on the first day of my first job in Bahrain. It's a great example of the use of the rule of three in delivering humor. The second great feature of this speech is the use of dialogue. One example of dialogue between Toastmaster Indu and the principal, Mrs. Inaz. Do you think you should do this? The second one is an example of her and her evil conscience. Indu, are you sure you can do this? And the third one is a conversation between herself and her mild conscience. Yes, I think I can do it. Brilliantly well done. The third example of a great feature of this speech is the use of the storytelling technique. Indu wanting to be a teacher, Indu struggling to be a teacher, Mrs. Inaz helping her to discover her true potential as a teacher, and Indu today transforming the lives of those little balls of clay in her class. Great use of the storytelling model. And number 4, this beautiful scripting in the speech, the first one, which is a beautiful metaphor that was used as balls of clay. We all are said to be made out of clay. So in molding these little children, that metaphor has been beautifully used, and a simile like angels without wings. Evidence of good scripting writing, wonderfully well done. Indu, the verse is over. It's going to get better. Just like Mrs. Inaz, I'd like to make a couple of recommendations to you. The first one is the point of transformation is clear, but the process of transformation is not clear. In your story, you say, this is the moment I changed, but you didn't tell us how and what changed in you. So the takeaway message for us is a little vague. Focus on the transformational message. Number 2, your gestures were limited to either this or this. Work on the gestures a little bit more, and the stage positioning can improve even though you're in front of the camera.
All right. I don't have the full video, but this gives you, this is the most clear example of my workshop tonight. DTM Hisham applied 90% of what I said tonight in his evaluation. 90%. If I want to give area of improvement, of course, this is the first winning evaluation in district, but if I want to give one area of improvement is perhaps you could reduce the first part of what went well. So in what went well, you added 4 points with examples. It takes a lot of time for you to mention the example, act out the example, and give the example the full right. That's why when you went to your point of improvement, cleverly you avoided the but. You didn't say but or however. And I don't know if it was by chance or luck, you exactly mentioned 1 point on content, 1 point on speaker. Exactly. 1 point content, 1 point speaker. And I'm sure at the end of your evaluation, you said in summation, and was not part of the video, but that was a textbook execution of our workshop tonight. So Bahrain Distinguished Toastmaster, you have an example of tonight's workshop and this evaluation. Thank you very much for listening to this. I think I felt good about spending this time with all of you and giving you the wealth of what I have in knowledge in elevating the next level of evaluation. I hope we have another evaluation champion from Bahrain, at least once every 2 years, if not every year, because every year I'm being quite ambitious, and I have confidence in our speakers, because sometimes we have speakers who double up. They do evaluation and prepared speech. So they double or they combine more than one contest. We have the caliber. We're the oldest district division in the whole district. We have experienced speakers, and we can do it all the time. Quick Q&A if you have questions. But before I go to Q&A, I have one last story why my last district evaluation was in 2017, again in Bahrain. That was the last year where District 79 or District 20 included Oman, the Emirates, and Jordan. In the isolation room, I took the time not to write down any more thoughts or process or theme or procedure. All I did is looking at my other contestants. I saw the person pacing back and forth, and I saw the person dropping down her head between her knees and focusing so hard on her evaluation. I saw the person shaking his hand, thinking of his evaluation, and I told myself, maybe there's more than just being in this isolation room and winning a trophy. That's why I decided this would be my last DTAC evaluation contest. And from there, I began a bigger role of helping upcoming speakers become champions themselves. And every win we get for this country, for our home, whether it was your first or second home, Bahrain is distinguished to be the home of any person who comes to its beautiful place. So this is a message for all of you. It's nice to win trophies, and the trophy for DTAC is the biggest trophy I have in my cabinet, but equally impressive is to see others win and become successful in their career as speakers. Now I hand the control back to Master of Ceremonies for the questions and answers.
Thank you, DTM Ahmed. Shukri, it was indeed a wealth of knowledge you have given to us. So if there are any questions, you can please come forward and give your questions. DTM Ahmed Shukri is there to answer your questions.
Madam MC, can I ask a question or maybe say something?
Yes, please go ahead.
DTM Ahmed Shukri, first of all, thank you very much for being with us and giving us how to evaluate and what to do, what not to do. One of the objective or mission of Bahrain Distinguished Toastmaster Club is to develop the skills for the members and for all the Toastmasters in Bahrain and whoever they are as a community. I think this is one of the steps our team, President and VPE have come and started the sharing the knowledge in the form of a workshop. And we want to do something similar more and more. So two things from you, DTM Ahmed Shukri. Number one, will you be available for more and more workshops? Because we want to have it maybe a regular training session.
Absolutely. Absolutely, with pleasure.
Number two, I'm just being a greedy little bit here now. Being a distinguished Toastmaster yourself, and this is a distinguished Toastmaster club, why don't you join the club and let's work together and help the entire community?
I knew it. I knew there is a small cookie in the end for me. I'm quite humbled by this request, DTM Khalid. I know your true intentions of spreading the message of Toastmasters, and I believe in that. I'm currently a member of 3 clubs, to be honest. There are 2 clubs are in Bahrain and 1 club based in Malaysia. DTM Farhaz inspired me of expanding my horizons, himself being member of 8 clubs, 8 or 6 clubs, Farhaz? 8. 8 clubs. 8. So he inspired me to expand my horizons, but definitely I will take your request to heart, and I will definitely come back to you with a good response. If I back out from one of my current clubs, because I always keep the three as the magical number for my membership. So if I say no to one of the 3 clubs, I'll come back to Bahrain Distinguished Toastmasters.
The doors are open for you. Of
God
course, with the
bless you.
permission, I have asked both this without taking permission from my rest of the team, but I'm sure they will agree with me. Thank you very much.
We have DTM Faraz raised his hand. Would you like to
Yes,
put your
ma'am.
question?
Yes, please. What I'm going to ask probably is not directly related to evaluation, but perhaps it relates to something that was discussed today about this concept of being the Superman of a speech. And I also am not really a fan of the speaker being the Superman. We should always be the person who learns and somebody else has to play that role. Where do you see DTM Ahmed Shukri, our world champion of public speaking, I can't even remember the year, Ramona Smith's speech, because I don't really notice anybody else other than a superwoman in that speech, but it still won. Your comments, please, from an evaluation point of view.
Absolutely. I have the best answer for you on this question. So world champion Ramona Smith, after winning the 2018 World Championship, 2018 was such a different year for the World Championships. It was the first year after such a long time where all three winners were ladies, first, second, and third. Okay. Now, what I'm going to say next is speculation and not based on science, but I have a small correlation that I have observed based only on observation. It's not only based on science or proven facts. I have found out that there is a very peculiar correlation between the international president and the identity of the winner of that particular year. That particular year, the international president incoming was a lady from Texas. Now, this is only an observation. It's not solid science. But perhaps maybe in the communication of the whole term worldwide, there is a slight push towards favoring a certain style of speaking. I'm not saying that certain speaker, but certain style of speaking. However, now it's very clear to us that in the League of Champions, in the League of World Champions, we can distinguish three types of world champions. And I will give you the three types with examples. The first type is a world champion who is already a trainer, and he is converting to a certain degree his expertise as trainer and leveraging training as part of his title as world champion. Some people do it nicely, they balance off, and some people, they sometimes overdo it. There are world champions who, to access your information, they can do a lot of cold sale, sometimes email spamming. You know, I don't blame them. In the end, it's livelihood, it's sustenance. But there are now clear League of World Champions who do this. And I can name you a few of them. You know them by name, can identify them by name. There are world champions who won and stayed away from, you know, prominent public speaking. Let me give you an example. Do you know who was the world champion in 2006?
Nope.
And you know why? And by the way, 2006, he was the person who beat our AS Muhammad Ali Shukri. Do you know that he has an amputated leg because he's suffering from diabetes?
Oh, is it that person called Dana something or the other?
No, Dana Lemon is blind.
He's blind.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's another example. The 2008 World Championship has expired because of certain disease. So there are speakers who stayed away, like the 2012 World Champion, Avery. Where is he? He's still speaking, but more of a church type speeches, like a congregation type of speakers. So there are world champion, but they'll stay away from like prominent speaking. And the fourth type, a third type is they were surprised by winning. They took the first chance and they were surprised by winning. I won this. What's next? So I heard Ramona with Darren LaCroix and with Michael Carr last, I think, 6 months ago, talking about a workshop on the lessons they learned from their world championship. So of course, Darren LaCroix is a trainer and he makes a lot of PR for himself. So he was comfortable in that virtual meeting. Mike Carr was surprisingly very good because he is a very active speaker in the community. Ramona Smith was always on the, I will learn this more. I'm still new. Give me some chance. Let's hear from the others. But her winning of 2018 was, I think, more performance than content. So she was that flamboyant boxing champion who managed to beat life in the game of boxing, but not in terms of content. This is what I believe in.
Thank you so much, DTM Ahmed. And maybe just one parting comment. Please remember that long before DTM Khalid Jalal made the offer for Bahrain Distinguished Toastmasters, I think I vaguely remember making an offer to you for another club as well. I wouldn't want to say the name here. Please don't forget that when you're considering your next move. Over to you.
I asked him first in this meeting. You cannot hijack him.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
What time is it over there? Shouldn't you be leaving?
I think I should. My wife has already called me to given me the final warning.
It's okay. It's not midnight yet.
Can we all have a group picture? So please, everyone on your videos.
There was a question from Khurram Salman. I don't know whether.
I think
I will take it right after the picture.
Okay.
Everybody can switch on their camera. I'll be taking the picture.
Please, everyone, switch on the cameras.
Okay, I think on that note, we're good. Let's look at the camera. Going on 1, 2, 3. Okay, great. We'll take one more. Let me just say that. All right, one more. 1, 2, 3. Brilliant. Thank you, everybody. MC, may I go ahead with my question? Oh, not a question, a comment, rather. Okay, so not to drag the discussion that just happened very longer, but I was lucky enough to be in the World Championship in 2018 at Chicago when it was happening. And I'll tell you one of the reasons that, because I speculated a lot why somebody could win just like that as well. And the level of competition wasn't all that high. But more than that, if you were there in the audience and something you could not have seen while sitting across and watching it virtually, is the energy that was there when Ramona specifically was speaking and how the audience responded back to that singing part that she had in her speech as well. So the energy that the whole audience came together with, you can only feel it over there. And I believe that is one of the reasons why the judges, because they're in the audience at the time, they could be impressed by that and they won. So the level of competition helped, and that energy over there at that point in time just worked in her favor. And that's something that even if you rewatch the speech, you wouldn't be able to feel it or see it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I do agree with you. And you know, it takes me to another subject which is also important. You know, the way that Toastmasters is expanding globally will demand from Toastmaster headquarters to expand globally even further. So even now, the current way that the World Championship is structured of having only 2 speakers from most of the globe and to compete in the last 10 speakers, there is a little bit of handicap between native speakers from either America or even UK or Australia compared to non-native speakers. But this, I believe this will change with time, because it was supposed to, I think, once every 5 years, the international convention goes out of the US. And I hope it still continues the trend. 3 years, every 3 years. It's a beautiful trend. I love that trend. Now, don't forget somewhere else. If you watched last year World Championship, who was the second place winner? She was a female speaker.
Linda Marie Miller.
Yes, exactly. And her speech was? It was about Black
racism.
Life Matters. Black Life Matters, a hot topic that took place in the same exact year. So you can even argue that her speech was too specific to America and not to the world. You can argue this always. In 2018, that was the year that close to the Me Too movement. So a lot of female actresses, celebrities, they spoke about harassment. So female empowerment was very huge in that year. We can't isolate ourselves from what's happening.
Global.
And this is where you create the energy. I'll tell you one more thing, and I'll tell Hisham as well. In our DTAC 21, how many speeches were about COVID? Out of 6 or 8, 10, most of 60%, we live. This is where we create our inspiration. So my prediction, so this is something that I do all the time, and I think I'll also be doing this year. So once we watch the World Championships, I create this 10-slide presentation on the main lessons learned from the World Championships. So once this is get ready, I will share it with you so we can perhaps discuss further what are the lessons we learned from the World Championship public speaking. And you know, it's always about learning, about getting engaged, and absolutely one day I hope I'll be there in the audience and see the energy that you talked about, Diti and Hurram. Okay. Any other questions from otherwise? We come to the end of tonight's presentation. No, again, so my main purpose from today's presentation, please, this is a request and an urge for all of you. There's always a burden from all of us once we get more experience in Toastmasters. It's not just the title, it's not just the memberships, they're not just the time we invest in helping others. There's always a burden because of the fact that words have power, like the world champion Gahtani said. Because you have power, you have an obligation. You know, in the Arabic culture, we talk about something called bayan. So bayan in Arabic is direct, clear, spoken word. So we say in the Arabic tradition, inna fil bayani la sihra. So it is in straight, convincing talk, a sense of magic. So we are all here magicians, fellow Toastmasters. We are here as magicians. We are change makers. In the time of COVID, how many of you across your family, friends, were desperate, losing hope, and you were the change agent that kept them going alive because of the power of your words? How many of you here in this room lifted the spirit of a person because of the power of words, of bayan that you have? And evaluation is part of that magic, of that power. There are people who listened to Hurram when he was speaking, to Farhaz when he was speaking, for Hisham when he was speaking, and they were inspired, lifted up. Maybe on that night when Hisham was speaking and Farhaz was speaking, the person watching over the screen was feeling depressed, losing a job maybe, or not being able to pay the bills. But listening to you on that night was a small voice that kept him going. Never take this for granted. And I say this for people who are not yet champions of district, like even Farhaz and Hisham and even Hurram and even all champions. If you're still not a champion, the title doesn't matter. It's you being, again, back on the fray, inspiring people. When DTM Hurram was District Toastmaster, the District 20 director, You know how many inspiration he was sending as the youngest district director? He was selling his brand everywhere he go. He doesn't have to brag about him being the youngest, but the source of energy that he was pumping into people because of this fact, because we love to see success stories. We love to cheer for the winners and for people who inspire us. You know what I mean? So especially now, I feel that 2021, it's more challenging than last year. At least last year, we knew some sort of a game plan. We knew that there will be some kind of way out from this global pandemic. But 2021, honestly speaking, we can't plan for next week. And not only in our country or your country, globally. So this is the time where your evaluation, your speech inspires others. And that's the message I want to leave you with tonight. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
Thank you, DTM Ahmed Shukri, for such a knowledgeable session you have given to us. We appreciate a lot and hope to see you soon.
Definitely. Bid you all good night and have a lovely weekend.
Thank you very much, DTM Ahmed. It was such a
Thank you
pleasure
so
hearing
much.
you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
It was amazing
Just-
hearing you again.
Just a small word for our presenter. Thank you so much, Jazakallah khair, DTM Ahmed Shukri. I would like to say that evaluation is an art more than that we learn how to do it, and it is something that we can improve ourselves in it. And if we have some mentors and guides and teachers here, absolutely we will do better and better in our life. Thank you so much, DTM Ahmed Shukri. And inshallah, I will be in contact with you so that these people will not be jealous, and it will be something in my mind. Maybe we can get something also from you. Thank you so much.
Inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we bid you all adieu. Take care of yourself. Good night. And thank you for attending.
Thank you so much.
Good night. Thank you for making it.
Good night.
Take care.
Thank you very much. Wonderful session.
See you all tomorrow morning.
See you.
Good night, everyone. We can
Good
stop
night.
the recording.
Thank you very much. Good night, all.
Good night, everybody. Well done, everyone. Take care. Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank you, brothers, for invitation.
My pleasure. Very welcome. Thank you for attending. Madam Sushma, nicely done. Thank you so much. It's fabulously done. Take care. Good night.
Good night. Mr. Nagendran did not show his screen. Okay, good night. Bye-bye.